I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse. And
this is the Reimagine Success Podcast.
We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference.
Keeping up with the Joneses can be exhausting, and we can often lose sight of what we are accomplishing.
We're here to reimagine success and to celebrate the steps it takes us to get there.
Big or small, we want to showcase success stories that will inspire, motivate, and help propel you towards greatness in your own life.
So come reimagine success with us, and let's go on this journey together. This week's episode of Reimagine Success is brought to you by Taking Control, a brand new album by me, Jesse Biondi. Coming January 22nd, 2022, this new album has 10 songs, 6 brand new ones and 4 reimagined ones from the last EP, All the Things, and will be available worldwide on every streaming platform. So get on your favorite music platform and stream this record as soon as it comes out. January 22nd, 2022, Taking Control by Jesse Biondi.
Welcome back to another Thursday edition of Reimagine Success.
Hope everybody's doing great today. It has been a great start to the year so far, and we've already had some outstanding guests this year on the podcast, and we've got another great one for you today.
And I just want to announce that we are actually in 14 countries and on 4 continents already. We are so excited about this. So thank you all over the world for listening to Reimagine Success, and we just want to thank you and celebrate you, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day.
Absolutely. Our goal is to encourage people as wide and far as we can get, and we want to thank every single person who's tuned in so far, and hope that this podcast has not just been entertainment for you, but it's been inspirational and encouraging in every step of your journey.
That's right. So with that, today's guest is
Jim Swan, or James Swan is his more professional name, but I believe he goes by Jim. We'll see in a moment. But with over 15 years as a small business owner, entrepreneur, and award-winning author, he brings his experience as a survivor of success and failure to the world of business coaching and consulting. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology and music from Southwestern University and studied in Arizona State University's Architecture and Design Master's Degree program. He's a past member of the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund, serving on its executive board of directors. His other commitments have included Paws LA, which assists with the care of pets for people living with disabilities, and KidSmart, an art education foundation for inner city youth. Currently, he lives and works from his home on the Maine coast, where he coaches highly motivated business owners and entrepreneurs to create high levels of success following catastrophic setbacks and failures. Anyone can do the expected. His clients are busy doing the unexpected, the unbelievable, and the audacious. They prove there is life after failure. So with that, welcome, Jim, to the podcast.
Welcome.
Do you go by Jim or James?
Jim is great. Thank you, Jesse. Yes, and Melissa. It's so good to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation to join you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, we're super excited to hear your story. And with that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your story? I've read some of it on your website, and man, is it intriguing. And I'm really interested to get right into the meat of this.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Jesse. And I'm happy to talk about any and all of it. It's kind of a long, rambling one, so I'll do the Reader's Digest version. maybe the most recent chapter. After a number of years in an industry that I held very close to my heart, I went down a path. I guess this was about 6 years ago, and I launched a podcast, not unlike the great successful podcast you guys are doing. And it too became successful. And we saw the numbers climb, and we saw our influence spread, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And then the unexpected happened. I had made a mistake a couple of years prior to that in some consulting work that I had been doing. Anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I'm not a numbers guy. I always had accountants that took care of that facet of the business. But it was just me. And so I deposited money, and I was going along. And anyway, I made a very public mess. I made a very public mistake that landed on the evening news one night. Despite having repaid the amount and made restitution, all of that. And in a course of about 48 hours, the podcast with our we had just surpassed 1 million views that week, actually. And it all went away. sponsors went away, the friends went away. It just evaporated. And a career of about 18 years went with it. And in the coming months, I spiraled, lost the place that I was living. I mean, the podcast had been my source of income. There wasn't a backup plan at that point. And I was sleeping on friends' couches and really didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And it was a pretty dark time. And I gave serious consideration to not continuing.
Right. Yeah.
Phrase it that way. And then through some very, very concerted efforts by some very kind people that I met, I discovered that life didn't have to end with failure. I was introduced to a community of people who were able to see beyond the mistakes that I had made and saw the potential in a life that was still breathing and still kicking. And it's been 4 years. I connected with a coach in the middle of this process, and with his help started dealing with issues in my life. And suddenly I find myself today with the new coaching practice, a new certification, coaching clients that I'm able to be the person that I wished I could have found when I hit my rock bottom. Someone who understood what it was like to have, to hit rock bottom. And I'm happy to be that person. I'm excited actually to get to be that person in other people's lives today. And I don't know what's ahead, but I know that it's going to be really exciting, and it's going to be a fun adventure. So that's a little bit of the story.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that you went through something difficult and saw what you wish that you would have had during that time, and then you became that for other people. That, to me, is unbelievably inspirational, because that's what the world needs more of. It needs people to recognize when there's a need that needs met, and then meeting that need, even if they didn't get that need met for themselves in the time that they wanted it.
Yeah, it was actually thanks to COVID. I had a day job at the time. Actually, I still have it, and it's helped me keep equilibrium and keep my bills paid. But COVID hit, and I even got laid off from that. So I was at home, and it was like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Don't know what's going to happen with COVID. There's all these insecurities and these questions. And I was going back through a journal, because I'm not not real religious about my journal writing, but I do make a point at least every couple of weeks to make an entry. And I found this entry from that period back in 2017 when my whole world was unraveling. And the line was just very simple. I wished I could find somebody to talk to that could understand. And I saw that line and I thought, okay, it's maybe that's what my future needs to start looking like. And I had already met this coach who had in a very short period of time helped me turn around some mindset issues that I was dealing with. And I thought, okay, this may be the door to walk through. And I walked through it and went through almost a 12 months worth of training, and this new career path is opening up in front of me now. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was actually talking to Jesse the other day about the workplace, and we have vacation, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever your, work gives you every single year. But I really feel like we also need a mental health days as well. I think every company out there should give you mental health days.
Yeah.
You should have 5 days, 7 days, whatever it is, where you get to just say, okay, this is going to be a mental health week for me. I'm going to take off. I need to go take care of some things in my own personal life, in my head, whatever that may be. And I feel like that we need more of that out there, because I'm sure, back then in 2017, if you would have had that where you could step back for a minute and say, okay, what do I need to do in my life in order, for it not to become unraveled? I'm sure that would have helped a lot.
It would have helped immensely. And actually, to your point, I would support that idea completely, but I would also add another facet to it, because now I'm speaking from a single person's perspective here. So for me to take a break from work, and sure, I can come home and I can manage my time because it's just me.
Right.
But for people who have spouses and partners and families and children and all of these responsibilities, how amazing would it be for a community of, whether it's a religious community or some sort of support community, to be able to step in at that same time. And even if for just a day or two, to say, you know what, we got the house, we got the kids, go, walk in the woods, go and walk by the ocean, drive for hours, do whatever is going to be meaningful to you, so that mental health check-in can have even deeper meaning.
Right.
I think that would be pretty incredible.
That would be something awesome to add to that, actually.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things missing in our society these days is it's a lack of community in any sense. Like, we're also isolated these days, and people are not meant to be alone. We're built to be living in community and with each other, and to speak to each other about the things that are in our lives going on.
Right. I mean, they say, it takes a village to raise kids. It really does. I believe maybe way back in the day, it was a village, and each person, did their own thing, raised the kids for that day while, the other person went out hunting or whatever it was back then. But I feel like that's what's missing today in our society.
I agree with you completely. In fact, I'm reading a fascinating book right now called Together. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's by one of the former Surgeon Generals of the United States, Vivek. I think it's Murthy, Murthy. And it's on this idea of loneliness, of people moving through their life and dealing with being alone in situations where 20, 30, 40 years ago, they weren't, because because our communities looked different, our culture looked different, and a real call to not to return to something just for the sake of returning to something, but to forge a different path and to find ways to create community in our lives. And I've taken it to heart. I mean, I live in a wonderful little coastal village here in Maine. There's not a lot of people around in general, so I have to I've decided that I have to go out of my way to make my own community, and to make sure that each week I'm getting time. And of course, this is all very complicated now with COVID, but I'm finding there are still ways to do it, where I need to be sitting across from someone and having a coffee for an hour and having a conversation, or I need to invite someone into my home for a meal, or I need to be able to go and volunteer somewhere every week. And I need to do these things regularly as part of me reinforcing this community that I'm creating, that is both meaningful to me, and I hope to some degree meaningful to other people.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It has to be.
Yeah.
I know here we're in a bigger city, Atlanta. So, there's a lot of communities, a lot of communities, and, a lot going on all the time, but you still feel so isolated sometimes. I feel like, because you are in a large city and there are so many people and so many cliques and so many, little small communities already. So sometimes it's hard to get into those communities in order to, feel evaluated and be a part of that. So what advice would you give to those people out there that are in larger cities that need to find communities?
Well, it's interesting. I'm dealing with this very conversation with a very dear friend of mine who lives out in Los Angeles right now, and he's going through a challenging time of life. I mean, we all are. Who am I kidding? Everything about life is challenging right now. But we've been speaking very regularly on the phone, and he's like, I don't want to be at home alone. This is something that I hear regularly from him, and so we're now having a conversation and starting to create lists of all the different organizations that he could go volunteer for, that he could somehow show up and be introduced to new ponds of people. He may find that pond isn't suiting for him, but he's never going to know if he doesn't go and dip his toe in, introduce himself, find out what their deal is and how they do their things, and is there a place here for me? I mean, I have done that. I've been a bit. Some people would call me a bit of a nomad, but I pretty fearlessly just can pick up and move to a new location. When I moved here to Maine, I moved here directly from Los Angeles. I didn't know a soul when I moved into my little town here. I knew this was a location I wanted to be in, and I went about. I found a volunteer organization where I could work in the soup kitchen every Wednesday. I found a political organization that I could plug into and make phone calls or go knock on doors. I found a little religious organization, and I'm not particularly a religious person, but I watched this group of people and I thought, you know what, I like the way you're doing what you're doing. You're reaching out to the community, you're helping the poor. I could get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, surprise, surprise, I find myself going to this little church, every Sunday. Not something I would have told you I would be doing if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, but here I am.
Yeah.
And I derive a lot from that experience and from that group of people, because not so much on a theological level, because I don't really buy into organized religion in a real deep way, but on a rubber hitting the road kind of a way, these people are making a difference in their community. And that I can get behind, and I kind of want to hang out with those people. So my suggestion really is do your homework. Look around, look under the rocks. Is it a hospital organization where you can volunteer? Maybe the local library needs somebody. Maybe it's a school that needs somebody to direct traffic or to be a crosswalk guard, or there's so many opportunities, even in the times that we live in with COVID, that people can find a little niche in their community and make a contribution that can benefit them even more than it's going to benefit the organization.
Right. And I know you actually worked with Paul's LA. I actually lived in LA for a few years. And I had a rabbit who was signed up with an agency called Paul's, which is really funny. That so she had a little talent agency as well. But yeah, well, that's awesome that you lived in LA as well.
Yeah. And I had a wonderful time there. I mean, I was there for almost, I guess, a little over 15, almost 16 years. Some real wonderful successes while I was there, some heartbreaking failures while I was there too. It was a little bit of everything. But even there, I found myself, and I guess maybe it's been an ongoing thread. And actually, now that I say it, I know exactly where it came from, because I saw this behavior modeled in my grandfather and my parents. Wherever they were always looking for ways to give back. Mm-hmm. Often it was through the church, because that's the environment that I grew up in, but also through Salvation Army and these different community-based organizations where they could contribute time and energy to try to make the community a little bit better. It just has always been the thing to do. So yeah.
That's definitely a great way to live your life, looking at ways to make your community better.
Yes.
One of our big things is spreading the idea of being decent humans. And part of that is helping other humans in their times of need, and not just looking away and saying, oh, somebody else will do it. Yeah. Sometimes we have to step up and be the decent humans and do the right things.
Yeah. So, when you live your life out of love, first thing love, then everything else will follow, whatever you want in life, as long as you lead with love.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. One of the groups that I got involved with when I first moved to my little area here in Maine does Thanksgiving baskets for families every year at Thanksgiving. And every year that I've been involved, we've done more and more and more. And just this past fall, we provided Thanksgiving meals to, I think we were up to 237 families.
Wow.
In our community, in the county here where I live. A real meaningful, I mean, yes, it's just one day out of the year, and God, would I love to be able to do that every week for families, of course, but it's something that I can do. It's something that we can do. And it has at the holiday season, it has a particular impact that I'm very proud of.
Absolutely. So earlier you were talking about how your path led you to some pretty dark places, including, the unfortunate considerations of just ending it all. How did you go about overcoming those feelings of despair and actually turn it around for good? I know that you had reached out to some other people, but what was going on in your head that made you think, you know what, I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm going to keep fighting. What does that look like in your story?
Well, there was a night in particular. It was while I was still living in Los Angeles, and the world had kind of fallen apart at my feet. I lived in a high-rise building at the time, and I had two dogs at the time. I had a father and son pair, Mickey and Max, little Yorkshire Terriers. They were great. And they were the reason that I didn't jump off the building.
Wow.
It was 3 a.m, and I had never felt so alone, and I had never felt like such a failure. And I went up to the roof, and all of a sudden I was sitting on the parapet with my feet dangling over the edge, really giving serious consideration to taking that next step. And then it occurred to me, oh my God, who will take care of the dogs? who will find the dogs up here on the rooftop? And those little buggers, I climbed back down. And is it melodramatic to say that the dogs saved my life that night? Maybe, but I'm also okay with the idea that the dogs saved my life.
Yeah.
And I got back, and we went downstairs, and I fell asleep. And as is often the case, at least in my life, the sun came up again the next morning, and I woke up, and the dogs needed to go for a walk, and life went on. And I realized that it hadn't come to an end. I didn't quite know what the future was going to be, but I knew that at least for this day, I was breathing, and the dogs needed me, and I made it through that day, and then the next, and the next, and here we are talking all those years later. So,
such an inspiration, and I'm sure a lot of people out there need to hear something like that. Just because you're in a dark place, and just because you feel like that there's no way out, that the sun will come out tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And life keeps going, and it doesn't stop because your life just happens to be in a crappy place at the moment. That the next day holds a whole new set of opportunities for you. We were actually talking just the other day. Melissa's birthday is about to be coming up at the end of the month here on the 28th. And we were talking about how it's not really so much about getting another year older, but it's about getting a fresh 365.
Yeah.
So
it's like your Happy New Year.
It's a reload of your life. If you don't like the way the last 20 years
365 days work,
or 300,
change them.
You've got a fresh 365 days ahead of you to reshape and to look at it in a completely new light, and realize that you can turn everything around, which is what you did. And that's such a huge inspiration for us and for our listeners. Like, I was getting chills while you were telling your story, and just thinking about you sitting there and realizing, oh wait, who's going to take care of the dogs? And like, letting that be your catalyst to keep living, because there's still stuff that has to happen during life. And sometimes we're the only ones that can make those things happen. We're the only ones that can be a light in other people's lives. And if we extinguish our light, then it's not going to shine for those people that need it, or animals in your case.
Or the pups.
Or the pups, exactly. There is this idea, I think, that people have, that it has to be the big thing. I remember as a kid hearing the Bible story about Moses and the burning bush. And I think many people go through their lives waiting for that big dramatic moment that's going to turn everything around, and suddenly it's all going to be better. And I think we get it wrong.
Yeah.
I think we get it wrong in that regard. I think the thing that I'm learning at this point in my life, that it's the small things that if I pay attention and say yes to, something as simple as, oh, you know what? The dishes need washing, or the floor needs sweeping, or I need to brush my teeth. Okay, I can go and I can do that one little thing. And if I can be present in the moment doing that, then I can become aware of the next thing that needs to be done. And I can do it. And if I remain in the moment, suddenly you've gone through an entire day, and who knows the lives that you've touched. Who knows by simply smiling at someone, the hope that you were able to give, let alone asking someone how they are, and then really caring enough to stop and listen, even if you are masked up. We can still do that. I was at the post office earlier today, and I saw a little friend who I know from my church community. She's also an artist in town, elderly woman. She's probably in her 80s, very vital, and paints these amazing modernist paintings, and she displays them in great galleries up here. But I just smiled and said hello. And she stopped and she said, "You know what? It's just so nice to hear someone say your name today, these days." She lives alone. Her children live in the area, but not with her. She said, "It's just so nice to hear your name, but hear somebody call your name." And so we had a lovely little chat. And I know I went away from that exchange with a little spring in my step. I hope that she felt the same way. And I made a little difference there. If we can do that a few times each day, well, then that's pretty amazing. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually how I've always lived my life. If I have touched one person, like really touched one person at the end of my life, it's worth it. And if you can touch so many more thousands of people or millions of people with your voice or your actions, that's what life is about at the end.
I couldn't agree more.
So Jim, your book is all about failure recovery. What would you like to tell someone today that is at rock bottom and feels like life is falling apart through your book?
Well, first I'd like to finish the book. So full disclosure there, it's not done. It is still a work in progress. But no, great question, and thank you for asking that. What would I want? I would want someone who is experiencing a rock bottom to know that that there can be life after failure, and that it can be a life that is so far beyond anything that they could imagine today. Because the funny thing about rock bottom is you're typically faced first in the dirt, and so all you can see is the granular gunk that you're, for all intents and purposes, buried in. You've got your face buried in it.
Right.
That's all you can see. But I would say to that person that there is life, an amazing life beyond that. There's going to be sunsets, sunrises, smiles, laughter, joy, tears. Because nothing's going to be perfect.
It's a roller coaster ride.
it's a roller coaster ride at its very best. But I mean, so I'll give you point of contrast. 4 years ago, I hit my rock bottom. Everything went away. I was sleeping on friends' sofas. I didn't have a penny to my name, literally. That's not a figure of speech. There was zero in the bank account. And 4 years later, I am sitting in a home that I just purchased 2 months ago. Someone about 2 years ago had asked me to write what my dream home would look like. What would your dream home be? And I did. I wrote a 2-paragraph, and I filed it away. And after I moved into this house, I came across that file on my computer, and I opened it back up. And guys, I'm going to get all mushy and probably tear up when I say this, but I described in those 2 paragraphs the home that I'm sitting in right now.
Oh, man.
Oh, manifestation at its finest.
At its finest.
At its finest.
It works.
It does.
Now, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, could I have with certainty told you that this would happen? Absolutely. I was very convinced that my life was for the most part over, and that I just had to figure out how to thumbtack it together and just get through until I took my last breath. And what's turned out, or what is turning out, is that my life is taking on new and amazing and interesting facets that I would never, ever imagine, not the least of which is this beautiful antique home that I'm sitting on a piece of property that overlooks the river, and on land that I'm going to get to actually have gardens and have chickens and put an orchard in and do these things that have become dreams of mine that make me very, very happy. And I'm going to get to have dogs again, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
So the message would be, it's not over. It is not over. You can move beyond that failure into a new chapter that can literally blow your socks off.
Yes.
Yeah, I completely can resonate with that. I may not have hit such a low bottom as you did, to where I was thinking about ending it all, but my life was in pretty rough shape a couple years back, and um, the past year and a half has shown me more hope and joy than I've known the entire rest of my life combined. And like you said, when you're in the midst of it, you're face down in the dirt. And if you don't lift your head up, all you're going to keep seeing is dirt. If
Mm-hmm.
you keep looking down at your mess, then that's all you're ever going to see. And it takes getting your eyes off of the problems and putting it on the solutions, and causing yourself to actually look at things that could be ahead for you, instead of saying, oh, there's nothing ever going to be good for me again. Instead of saying that, you can say, okay, these are the things that I want for my future. Whether or not I can achieve them, I don't know, but I'm going to try. And like you said, you came up with a dream home. You had
Mm-hmm.
no idea if you were going to ever be in that dream home. It was a dream. And now here you are in it. And I had all these dreams in my heart, and that I was like, I just don't know if I'll ever achieve these things. And here I am living my dreams, and with a person that is supportive and amazing and is backing me in my dreams, and I'm backing her in hers, and we're a team, and it's wonderful. And I never would have had that if I would have stayed in that mess
Stayed in
with
the
my
mud.
head down, thinking that it was never going to happen for me. You have to have positivity. You have
Mm-hmm.
to look at things in a way that you're encouraging yourself, because a lot of times this world's not going to encourage you. And
Right.
sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, you know what? I am capable of anything that I want to do. I just have to get out of my own way to do it.
Yeah.
That's very true. And there are times where a little helping hand, well,
Yes.
at the right moment can make all the difference. And I think
Absolutely.
that's for me. And as I look at this new coaching practice that I'm moving into, is where things get really exciting for me. I mean, it's on a professional level, and yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's you can't do it for free all the time. However, there are times where you can. I have a coaching session this afternoon with a gentleman that I'm extending as a complimentary gift, because he's in a really rough place of his life. And it's one of those moments where I get to give back. I get to be that voice that I wished I had
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Love that.
And so I've gifted it to him, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it for him. For me, the gift, the winning is in the giving.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already got my reward for that one. Not that I'm looking for them, but this practice allows me the opportunity to, from time to time, give that way. And I don't know, that's just the icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned.
I love that. It shows so much about you, Jim, as a person, that, I mean, we give and we receive. And that's what life is about, is giving and receiving. With your new practice, what are some of the things that you actually do in your practice? How do you help someone turn their life around from rock bottom? Without going into too much detail, but what
Yeah,
are some of your processes?
no, a great question. Very good question, Alyssa. I think the thing that I know the thing that I start with is always core values,
Mhm.
because if we're going to make any headway in life, whether it's professional headway or personal headway, I believe it has to come from clarity around the things that really, on a deep core level, matter to us.
Mhm.
So one of the first exercises that I work with with my ongoing coaching clients is a series of core value exercises where we really drill down. We start with a list of about 300 potential values that the people have identified as potential core values. And we whittle that list down to 20, and then we go down to 10, and then we narrow it down even to 5. And we try to come up with those 5 core values that are totally non-negotiable, that in every area of your life, you're looking for opportunities to express those values. And it's really kind of amazing and rather powerful when people can come up with those 5, what clarity that adds to everything in their life:
Mhm.
relationships, money, profession, kids, downtime, relaxation time. if you can start filtering every one of those, every decision that you have to make in life through 4 or 5 core values that you've identified as being the most important values in your existence here on this planet, it's amazing that suddenly things start kind of the questions start answering themselves. You know, do I want this in my life? Well, how does it align with my core values? Oh, wow, it really doesn't. So, okay, well, get rid of that one. But you know what? I've identified something over there that could really resonate with my core values. So yes, I want to go and I want to bring that into my life. It really changes the dynamic, and I find my coaching clients being able to make rapid progress, rapid change once there's clarity around that collection of core values. And then it becomes just prioritizing. You know, coaching is very different from therapy. Therapy is very much involved in understanding why you've done something today and using the past as the reflection. So we're going to go back into our past and we're going to understand what has brought us to this point. And that's what therapy does. I'm not a therapist. If you need therapy, I've got great people I can refer you to. Coaching is about understanding where you are today and looking ahead to where you want to be tomorrow, and then figuring out the most powerful steps that will lead you in that direction.
Right.
So once we've identified the core values, and then we start looking at whether it's personal or professional, the direction that you want to go, we map out that direction, and then we work together to start realizing those goals, those achievements. And in many ways, I get to be a cheerleader, you know, watching and cheering people on as they identify what's important, create goals and objectives, and then they start achieving those things. And it just becomes win after win after win. And I get really jazzed at the thought of it.
That's great. I mean, for you to be able to do something that not only helps yourself and your soul, but is able to help someone else's self and soul is such a rewarding experience, I'm sure.
It's the best thing ever. I mean, I thought and I've had some pretty cool moments in my little existence here on this planet.
I
in
bet
the
you
professional
have.
world, you know, some great wins and some moments where I thought, oh yeah, I really want to remember this. And they've all been fine and good, and I wouldn't trade any of them, wouldn't trade them at all.
Right.
However, at this moment in my life, I can't imagine a better win than to be able to be part of people's lives as they chart their course and start achieving those milestones. And if I can be a little part of that, kind of the best gig in the world as far as I'm concerned.
That sounds awesome. I love that you're targeting those core values, because a lot of times as we go through life, we can be doing good things, but they're not really furthering our lives or furthering our goals and furthering our dreams. They're just good things that are kind of taking up our time. And so I'm a musician. I used to be in a band that was a tribute band, and it was great being in it. The guys that I was in it were wonderful, are wonderful. They're still going and having a great time on the road, playing all over the place. But it wasn't furthering my dreams and my vision for my life. It was just something that was a good thing that was taking up time and getting me away from the things that I want to pursue, which is my own music, which is the voice that I want to have, you know, with my lyrics and my songs, not singing another band's music as a tribute where I'm furthering their vision and their dreams and their goals. So getting rid of the things that are distracting you from your vision for your life, they're so important in identifying those core values in your life. That's how you find success, is figuring out what it is that you are passionate about, that's going to make you at the end of the day rest your head on your pillow and say, okay, I'm happy with the direction my life is going, and I'm feeling that level of success in my life because I'm chasing the things that are important to me.
And it's also scary. It's very scary and challenging when you've done something, say for years and years, and then all of a sudden you are like, well, you know, I need to switch this up and try something different. It can be very scary for a lot of people, but when you get over that hump of that conditioning or that comfort zone and you get over that, then it's just so beautiful on the other side.
You absolutely are correct in that. And that's where a coach can come in. I mean, if you speak with any professional athlete, you speak with any high-achieving business executive, they have people in their life that they are accountable to. It's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a coach. I mean, that's really the role that has been identified. And so for people to be able to apply that same type of a relationship to help them reach these milestones in their either personal or professional life, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I start many conversations with people when people ask me what I do, and they say, "Oh, so what does that mean?" I said, "Well, it's really simple. If I were to meet you 3 years from now, and you were to tell me that you just completed the 3 most mind-blowingly exciting 3 years of your life, and you told me the story of what those 3 years were like, what would be the difference? What allowed you to have those 3 years that you're not doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Where did the change come? Did you buy a different brand of cologne? Did you start washing your hair with something different? Was it a different face scrub? No, of course it's not going to be any of those things. You made some different decisions for your life,
Mm-hmm.
and then you started acting on them. Maybe you can do it on your own, and if so, knock it out of the park. I will be a cheerleader, and I'll be excited for you. But most people I need a little help along the way. And that's where
I think we all do. I think all of us need each other. Like you were saying at the very, very beginning, is community, and we all need each other, and we need to guide each other and to show each other the best ways and what we learn and what you have learned, and we need to share it with each other.
Absolutely.
So I know, Jim, you have bought your dream home, and I know that is your huge success, and you're so excited because you manifested this house. But what are some of the other amazing successes that you've had recently that you would like to share with us?
Wow.
Because we are Reimagine Success, and we want to know all your successes.
You're absolutely right. Well, launching the new website for the coaching practice, that was huge, because that challenged me to dig deep, because I worked with a wonderful digital team who actually created the site, because I don't have talent to do that. But the words somebody had to write those words, and they challenged me to write them. Yeah. So getting through that process, it was about a 6-week process, and getting that to the point where it could go live.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, huge success.
And so I haven't realized it yet. I'm in process on this, but I'm getting ready to roll out a new social media campaign that's going to involve things like TikTok and Instagram, lots of Instagram lives and Instagram reels and things like that. It's going to be a new venture for me. So we haven't launched that yet. We've sort of got a soft rollout for the second week of February plan for that. But that's coming. And so I'm sort of celebrating that in advance, because I know it's going to be cool and exciting, and it's going to take me in some new fun, different directions. That's happening. I have not completed this process. Again, I'm in process, but I'm working on repayment and restoration of some debts that I have accumulated in my life because of some very dark times of my life. So every month, I write checks, I mail them out, and I'm a little bit closer to laying that to rest. It's going to be a while,
But when you do, that's going to be such a huge thing. Like, you'll get to sit back and say, "Oh yes, it is done. I've achieved it."
You will have to come back on the podcast and let everyone know.
Yes,
everyone is dying to know.
I promise. You'll hear the shouts, and then I'll come back on and I'll tell all the details.
That's awesome.
So those are some of the things that are happening.
That's fantastic.
Lots of things to be grateful for.
Yes, always.
You had mentioned your website and your social media. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can sign up for your coaching, how they can get in touch with you if they would like to, just reach out and talk to somebody?
Absolutely. I would be happy to do that. The easiest central location is the website. So the website's really simple. It's james-swann.com. JAMES-Swann, SWAN.com. And then if you're on Instagram, you can find me at James_Swan_coaching. That's on Instagram, and haven't launched on TikTok yet. But stay tuned on that one. I'll keep you posted on that. Okay.
And you're also on LinkedIn as well, very active on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh, yes. How do I forget about that? Yes, you can absolutely find me, James Swan. I think it's James Swan 61 on LinkedIn. I am there, trying to even be more active, but yes, definitely find me there.
And we will have all of these links
Yeah.
listed on our episode notes as well for those that are looking.
Absolutely. Well, James, it has been an absolute pleasure having you with us on the podcast. Your story has, like I said, it's inspired me already, and I'm sure it's going to inspire our listeners. And I cannot wait for people to hear this episode.
Well, thank you both for the opportunity. I'm a big fan of you and all you're doing. Any way that I can be supportive, please know that I would be happy to do that. And I will wish you the very best.
Yes. And until next time, we need you to come back on pretty
Absolutely.
soon.
Promise.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Jesse, now that was an inspiring story.
It sure was. For me, I'm so glad to have these voices of people who can come and give hope and light to people that might be in a dark place. And frankly, like those of you listening right now, we may not know you, we may not ever get to know you, but I hope that you heard something today that if you're in that place, that it'll push you forward and say, you know what, there is light. I can lift my head up out of this dirt and find something that has meaning and something that will bring joy to my life.
And, we just want to thank Jim for opening up and sharing his story. I know it's not always easy to talk about something that is so dark for a lot of people, but I feel like if we lift our voices and we talk about these dark times, they won't look so dark, and we can show a community for each other, and we can reach out and just be there for each other. So for all of our listeners out there, just be there for one another, lead with love, lead with compassion, and just always know that, if you smile and act with kindness, you just never know whose life you're going to turn around.
Absolutely. And with that, this has been a Creative Global Entertainment production.
Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us at Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.